Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters here in the Americas region. We've got Amnesiac up against Muzzy next. Two players that honestly aren't doing as well, I think, in their division as maybe we would have expected them to do. Amnesiac, you know, the young savage himself, and Muzzy, who was one of the best performers last year, period.
Yeah, I mean, his performance at Worlds as well. It's the thing is, in Grandmasters, we have all these. I use this word a lot. Titans. It's literally like a clash of the titans. Like everyone here is an incredibly talented player, and having these players fight against the best, quite literally the best in the field, it's hard to get major edges. And sometimes from week to week, when we're playing only 8 sets so far, it's hard for players to come out shooting ahead of everyone else. Like we've seen people like Fino and Eddie come out with like 8-0 and 7-1 scores. So it's hard. Maybe over time we'll see the players kind of balance out to where we feel they should be.
Well, let's see what these Titans are going to be clashing with, shall we? I just waited so long to say that.
I know. I saw you fidgeting. I'm like, oh, he's got something cooking.
We've got to transition. All right, let's see. Amnesiac is bringing Bomb Warrior. Nothing too crazy here. Would you agree?
I believe this might be quite similar to what Gallon finished at Las Vegas last week. There's no Alex in the main list, but there is a copy of Spellbreaker, one Omega Devastator, and Archivist Lycian on the main list. It does look like that is, yeah, with the mech sideboard and a mage sideboard, this might be quite. I don't want to say I know exactly what Gallon brought, the exact 40 cards, but I believe this is quite close to the 40 cards Gallon brought.
Well, it's not Fast Bomb Warrior, which is the kind of quirky deck we saw.
Yeah,
was brought,
that's true.
Inspired by Fibonacci. Let's take a look at what it's up against. Muzzy is bringing Cyclone Mage. It's the second time today that we've seen Cyclone Mage, though this is certainly more the matchup that you want with Cyclone Mage.
Yeah, definitely. Where's one of the games we want? One of the decks, sorry, that Muzzy's hoping to face with this deck. We also see Muzzy having Sandbinder, which some players have opted to cut out, but I believe Muzzy values the consistency in which it helps you find some extra elementals, namely the Cyclone and the Giant. And we see it right in Muzzy's opening hand. Going first as mages can be difficult because you have the one less card to work with, especially against Warrior when you want to be able to develop these early Giants. So having cards like Banana Buffoon, Arcane Intellect to increase your hand size, and the Sandbinder's follow-up means that Giants can be played on turn 5.
Job's done. It's going to be a slow first few turns, but once we get into turn 3 and beyond, things are going to start.
They'll ramp up.
So why is it then, Language Check? For anyone that doesn't know, why is it that the Cyclone Mage is considerably favored against the Warrior?
Warriors have trouble dealing with lots of big things consistently. I mean, there's ways to be able to deal with the Giant. You can have Shield Slam, you can have just minions on board to trade with it. When you start getting multiple Giants on board, only Brawl can really deal with it. You don't have Reckless Flurry like Odd Warriors used to have in the past. There's still like Brawls, but a lot of Bomb Warriors are also favoring just one Brawls in their mains. So having these big threats early means that it's difficult for Warrior to deal with it until they get to turn 10 where Devastators can come down, for example. Mage
has a very distinct playstyle, I think it's fair to say, with the fact that, yeah, often it's 2 Giants are on the board. And we joke about this in secondary and tertiary decks, but so often there's just the very blatant, this is the anti-mage list. And in Warrior's case, yeah, it's seriously anti-mage. Double BGH, Brawl, and double Super Collider, which is so good against a board of 2 Giants. So we're almost certainly going to be seeing Amnesiac switch to that later on, but maybe he'll have a shot here in the first game as well, with an extra Clockwork Goblin being generated and a Wrench Caliper. If he can find Blastmaster Boom, then he's definitely got a shot.
I like Muzzy playing out the Sorcerer's Apprentice on turn 2 to set up for the Banana Buffoon to be able to deal with something like Clockwork Goblin coming down. And I also liked Amnesiac playing Omega Simile on 1. This isn't a game you can always take super, super late as the Warrior, especially when Amnesiac only has 1 Brawl, 1 Devastator main list, so that spending mana on turn 1, giving him the option to go coin 3 into 3 into 4 into 5 gives him a much more aggressive line, which is probably what Amnesiac needs to be able to deal with Muzzy's Mage.
What to do?
So great plays from both players so far.
Muzzy's still going to take his time with this one, though, although it does seem like a very clean play. I wonder if he's trying to play around a Warpath or something and not wanting the Sorcerer's Apprentice damage. And yeah, it appears as though that's the case.
I like this.
Not even going to pull the trigger on the bananas, so what's up with that?
if Muzzy plays Sandbinder next turn, Giant could be playable on turn 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, might not be playable on turn 5. But the point is, if the bananas are thrown out there, like you said, Warpath can clear the Apprentice, and it means that the hand size is much smaller. The bananas could also be saved in case there's a Cyclone top deck, or even if Sandbinder gets the Mana Cyclone. So no matter what elemental no matter which elemental comes off the Sandbinder, the bananas are helpful to have in hand.
So,
What to
Sandbinder,
do?
freeze
What
one of the
to
goblins,
do?
buff up the banana buffoon, deal with the other goblin. It is looking like it's a very resource-heavy play, and it will mean that
It's quite an
Giants
investment, yeah.
get significantly worse. And like, you know, if his next draw is Mana Cyclone, if Mana Cyclone does come off of the Sandbinder, that's going to feel really bad. At the same time, well, I don't know, he's not a
Muzzy
second
could-
Sorcerer's Apprentice. So.
He could also consider just Conjurer's Calling the Banana Buffoon. Banana, conch.
I will show you fear.
The Mana Cyclone.
So the thing is, with this hand and the board state, it's
Time runs out on
possibly
me.
better that Muzzy got the Mana Cyclone because he can go for a huge Cyclone turn instead of waiting to play the Giant with a Conch.
But what does he, like, this is just so messy.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. It feels a little wonky.
Okay, he's just setting up for the
I
ultimate.
do like
mana.
holding back for the Cyclone, though.
Now next turn, it's Sorcerer's Apprentice, all of the 1 mana, which are now 0 mana spells, and the Mana Cyclone.
So Amnesiac can consider, there's a clear just turn 4 play where you play Orange Caliber, kill the thing. But there's a couple of decisions here. Does Amnesiac want to like double trade into the Sandbinder to play on Conjurer's Calling? It feels really weak because you're putting so much damage into it. Does he want to push face for 6 damage, kill the Apprentice with Orange Caliber? Does he want to value trade the Banana Buffoon and then go face with the other Clockwork Goblin? There's a couple of lines here that he could take, and he's trying to consider what's best. He could even Warpath to completely clear the board and leave a Clockwork Goblin up. Warpath is kind of a difficult resource to use against Cyclone Mage, also against the primary list. Against the secondary or the anti-warrior list, sometimes Warpath can clear an Astromancer plus something else. But in your primary, it's hard to get value out of Warpath.
Something to note is that there's no weapon removal in Muzzy's Mage deck whatsoever, so Amnesiac knows that he's safe to just play this card, to play this Orange Caliber and just hold it for as long as he wants. Maybe he'll want to hold it until immediately before Blastmaster Boom turn, or maybe there'll be a trade that he needs to take.
I think I like this. Warpath effectively weakens his own board as well. There would only be a 3-1 left for Amnesiac.
Frostbolt's a great pickup. It can be played alongside all of the 1 mana spells. Sorcerer's Apprentice, double banana to buff at the Sandbinder. You'd hold on to it.
I would use the Frostbolt, but I don't think... with the
wonder.
Frostbolt pickup, this might not be a Cyclone turn.
Really?
Muzzy could go Frostbolt and the Clockwork Goblin, trade off the Sandbinder, and then make 2/4 drops.
Oh, sure, sure.
With a yeah.
I forgot about the value that the Conjurer's Calling would get here. Whizbang the Wonderful is fine. It's a
Yeah.
4/5. That's reasonable. 1/6. I guess we'll take that as well.
It's not bad.
It's
It's
gonna survive, so you can. use
It also
again.
means that I believe on average 2 4-mana minions will not die to Orange Caliber plus Dynamatic.
Okay.
There are some cases where it will, but this was a high health Fell Soul Inquisitor popping up, and the Yeti's not bad either.
I don't think Whizbang would like being called a Yeti.
It's a bit of fancier Yeti. Still got some of that
That's just quite an insult, really.
white fur there.
I think he works quite hard on his appearance.
If he writes me an angry letter, I'll apologize. It's
Are we going to get to hear his attack sound?
yeah. It doesn't look like the Whizbang's dying.
Very exciting.
Actually, I don't think we will be able to hear the attack sound. I believe only the players can hear it, or the player who has it on the board. I don't think from spectator we can hear the sound they make.
Okay, given the amount of games that I've cast, I feel like I should know the answer to that question. No, yeah, we can hear it. We can hear sounds from Muzzy's side of the board. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, perhaps.
But if I'm wrong, I'm going to look really silly now.
It's okay. At least you've committed. So Amnesiac has to make some sort of tempo play here. Sheer Block's not going to cut it. Warpath does not do a whole lot. It can get better later, and Ziliax doesn't do a whole lot either. So I do like him using 5 mana, playing 2 things. The Spellbreaker doesn't hit something super relevant, but it's something that he can use to fight for board.
Someday I'll be just like you.
This is looking like a Cyclone turn now for Muzzy. Recognize that quickly.
Ooh, Khadgar.
There's one copy of Brawl. Muzzy can decide whether or not he wants to play around it. Could devote the mirror images to the board as well. But I'm not even sure that's necessary. So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 spells now. Does commit the mirror image.
Yep. It's
Probably
a
fine.
great mana cycling turn.
Yeah.
You use it when you can as well, right? Like,
That's true. I also like holding back the Conjurer's Calling in case there's a Brawl, and this still makes your hand quite large if you do happen to pick up something like a Mountain Giant.
double Astral Rift. That's a lot of random minions.
Some good stuff. Hand size,
Someone's out
gas.
on me.
Scorch is going to be 1 mana next turn.
Wow, I feel very silly.
What do you mean?
No attack sound.
That's okay. I wasn't going to point it out, but if you want to
I
go
spent that whole turn waiting with bated breath. Like, how wrong am I? Very wrong. Exceedingly wrong.
Very powerful turn here for Muzzy. And this is kind of, I mean, people get hung up a lot on, oh, you know, Giant Conjurer's Calling. It's the most broken thing in the game. But just the Cyclone stuff is very powerful as well. I mean, you do need a lot of cards to be able to generate these sort of fancy turns. So there are cases when you just don't have all the cards to be able to make these turns. But when you set yourself up to do that with cards like Banana Buffoon, Sandbinder, you can do some crazy stuff with this deck. And it's not even that powerful in terms of how many stats are on the board. This is a fairly reasonable mid-sized board from the Mage. There's a lot of stuff for sure, and a lot of value is generated, but there's not, you know, 24 stats on the board. This is Muzzy playing for tempo, playing Apprentice out on curve, and this is kind of how you have to play the matchup. We've seen in the past few weeks, some of the Grandmasters matches, the Warriors have been so aggressive that the Mages just died before turn 7, 8.
Yeah.
They can close that really quickly.
It just doesn't seem to be like one of those games, does it?
Definitely not.
There's a lot of bombs in Muzzy's deck. That's
Just 1,
you know,
2, 3, 4. Yeah, there are 4 bombs.
Put that out there.
Almost lethal.
But with cards like Stargazer Luna, like Muzzy will be drawing through the deck. However, with this 4 mana card still on the board, it can value trade with the Spellbreaker, and then Khadgar.
Conjurer's
Conjurer's Call. Is that too much to commit? Do you think?
I don't think so.
There's one brawl.
The
in
Warpath, yeah, exactly. So the Warpath doesn't necessarily signal that there's not a brawl, but you have to make a stand at some point. And Muzzy's in such a good spot. Even if there is a brawl, there's a good chance something on your side of the board sticks.
Oof.
Soldier of Fortune popping up here.
Okay, so its effect is when it attacks, it gives the opponent a coin.
Correct.
So, how bad is that for Muzzy? I mean, it seems
Fine.
good. I think he has 10 health.
Yeah, it's fine. Amnesiac can't go coin Omega Devastator. Doesn't work.
Its other
Tried it.
effect is when you attack, your opponent's portrait explodes, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's a great effect. It's a very powerful board from Muzzy. Amnesiac's trying to find a way to, I guess,
Dismantle it.
yeah. Not a whole lot of options. You can use Militia Commander or Ziliax as a way to clear something. This was the second half of the Conjurer's Calling in Muzzy's hand, so Amnesiac knows there's at least... it's unlikely for the second Conjurer's Calling to be in hand.
Defend the gates!
Okay. So leaving the Khadgar up isn't the scariest thing in the world. So Amnesiac making a defensive play, shield block to get enough armor to not die on board, which is probably a good thing to do. 11 damage.
The future is ours.
Cinderstorm is lethal.
Cinderstorm doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's still there.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Behold
I thinking?
the tools
I
of
don't know.
creation.
I thought it was kobolds. That's weird.
No, Cinderstorm's still around.
It's Witchwood, isn't it? Yeah. My bad.
It's okay. Okay. Astral Rift. Proud Defender. Faceless Rager.
Wow. Faceless Rager with the 5/6 on the board is pretty good.
I wonder if Muzzy ever just plays the second Astral Rift to play around,
bombs?
quite literally, if Amnesiac draws exactly orange caliber and shuffles 1 extra bomb in the deck. Because I don't think Amnesiac can clear this board.
You're right. I mean, Muzzy just wins with this
I
hand.
don't think he's going to do that. The chances of that are astronomical. But it's a consideration. It's something you can play around. And even if Amnesiac finds a way to clear this, Muzzy does have the refill with Mountain Giant Faceless Rager. Again, I don't think this will matter in
No, it's not going to matter.
99.99%.
If it matters, if Amnesiac goes shield block and draws Orange Caliber and hits with it, and then all of the bombs blow up, I don't think I ever need to cast Hearthstone. I think I'm done at that point.
That's
I've
it.
seen
Just
everything.
tap out. Okay. I mean, Amnesiac's going through the motions, trying to find some sort of out, but I believe that the only way he does win this game now is exactly as we were discussing. Shield block, draw one Caliber, shuffle a 4th bomb into Muzzy's deck, and then Muzzy draws the bombs.
What now?
Well, I just explained it. Come on, Garish.
It's like he's not even listening.
He's not.
It's all right. Twitch chat's listening to us.
That's
Right,
what-
Twitch chat?
That's what matters. Didn't quite get it.
Got the shield slam or warpath. Shield slam, no, there's still no way he survives. This is the 9 damage available, 10 health. Okay. Just about alive. Just
Quite barely. 2, 4, 6, 8.
one off. With the ping, it's one off.
Okay.
So does Muzzy have any lethal outs? The one Frostbolt has been played.
Second magic trick into Arcane Missiles or Cinderstorm.
or Banana Buffoon.
Or Banana Buffoon. Yeah, he has the mana to find the Buffoon, play something else, play the Buffoon, and then use the bananas.
Or any of these Astral Rifts into anything that buffs attack.
Elven Archer.
That'll work. Didn't get its time to shine in the OTK Paladin game, so.
For anyone wondering, it was about a 0.0 small % chance to get those bombs.
0.0 small percent.
It's like
Is that what we got?
24 out of 15,000 something.
Okay.
Not that anyone's keeping track. Lorinda, don't check that, please.
I mean, you said small. That's not a number,
It's
really.
about- it's a lot of numbers.
Yeah,
Spirit of the Shark.
Spirit of the Shark not going to be the card that Muzzy needs to get there. But at the end of the day, it's unlikely that Amnesiac can ever get back to the point where he's stabilized.
Yeah. Ziliax would have to come down on the Snip Snap, but even that's not quite enough. I mean, Amnesiac's on so little health to work with, let alone being able to deal with the board.
That is a good Magma Rager right there.
Yeah.
A Rager right there, rather. 3 mana, 5/6?
Okay, here we
Oh,
go.
it's
There's
bomb
the out.
time. Armor up.
Amnesiac has been given an out. He can swing after armoring up so he doesn't die to the Proud Defender, shuffle a 4th bomb in, and now it's actually a bit different. The odds are...
Oh, no.
Yep, it's still bad.
Yes, really. It's still unlikely that 5 bombs all
It's
explode.
more likely now, but
But still
not likely.
quite unlikely. Are you more likely to be hit by lightning?
I'm going to need stats on Lightning, but
Lorinda, are you there? Lorinda? Hello?
I wonder.
probably not in the studio, if you mean me specifically. In
You being
general, a
hit by
person
lightning
in the
right
field-
now?
Yeah, seems unlikely. But so does drawing 4 bombs in a row.
Well, it would have to be 5.
Oh, you know what? This was a much better play than we were talking about. This actually has a higher chance of winning. So Rover plus 4 Warpaths means that Amnesia gains a lot of armor, and it actually deals with Khadgar, Luna, both Gnomish Inventors. Trading Snip Snap also means that Amnesiac dealt with Proud Defenders, so there's only a Faceless Rager left on board. And with Muzzy not having lethal damage last turn, it's unlikely he has lethal damage this turn.
Hey, Amnesiac found a really good play while we were talking about 5 bombs exploding.
Yeah, we
back to
probably
back.
should have paid attention to that. It's fine.
Magic Trick, though, is very... Oh, it can find that. I was going to say very likely. That's not strictly true.
More likely than the 4 bombs.
But Frostbolt's going to do it.
5 plus 3.
Yep. What's the chances of that?
The Frostbolt? 1 in 40 something.
I was going to say the Frostbolt being lethal.
Oh,
the answer is 100%.
There you go.
As Muzzy does take the first game of the series. Took a little bit longer than you'd expect.
Yeah.
But he got there. I don't think we saw any of the bombs go off. Amnesiac not looking too happy. We're going to have to start looking at the secondary and tertiary decks now, of which we've made it pretty obvious what Amnesiac's going to be playing. His tertiary deck seems like the anti-mage list.
Yeah, Big Game Hunters, Brawl, Super Glider. There's some hefty stuff there, and we've seen this, again, a lot of players in the first couple weeks ended up bringing these heavily teched secondary, tertiary decks for Mage and what other people are bringing. Mage has fallen out of favor a little bit as the weeks have gone by, but it's still powerful enough to warrant a secondary, tertiary deck for
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, I mean, you get 2 extra deck slots. You may as well use one of them to counter one of the strongest decks in the meta. I've just received word that Amnesiac is playing his tertiary deck. No way.
Okay.
This is it. This is the. And again, in our key cards there, we're showing you outright Super Glider, Big Game Hunter, and Brawl. These are the cards that are added in order to take down Mage. It already did run 1 copy of Brawl. It's just a second Brawl that's been subbed in. Subbed out for Amnesiac is 2 copies of Turnium Rover, 1 Omega Assembly, Harrison Jones, and Archivist Elysiana.
Yeah, just taking out some of those value cards to be able to deal with some of the big threats that Muzzy has. Muzzy, on the other hand, added Twilight Drakes, Cairn Bloodhoof, and 2 Astromancers, and took out the Novas, the Frostbolt, Mirror Image, and Sea Giant. So tools that are a bit harder to use effectively against Warrior, and the Mirror Image is also kind of a liability against Brawl sometime.
It's ironic because Frostbolt did lead to lethal last game, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, yes, the Twilight Drakes, the Cairn, etc. These cards are just good against Warrior, against the slow type of deck.
This is also something we didn't see players do a lot early on. I know at this point we've seen it quite a bit, but Muzzy keeping Apprentice just to play it out on curve, to be able to deal with some of the early aggression that Bomb Warrior can have. Well, there's exactly the tech cards Amnesiac probably wants, especially when Muzzy's on the coin. If Giant Coin, Conjurer's Calling comes out, Super Collider's ready. If Giant comes out, Big Game Hunter's ready. The only thing Amnesiac's not ready for is Coin Apprentice. There is no answer in Amnesiac's deck for this. Weapons Project is no longer run, at least that often in these decks. So Coin Apprentice into, oh my goodness.
Into Intellect, into
Evocation?
Pulling Evocation would be insane. Get it, but there's another shot next turn.
Yeah, the images don't really protect anything here. Amnesiac can't play Orange Caliber on 3 mana, and Armor Shield Slam can still bypass the mirror images. So I do like, of course, holding back the mirror images here.
Realistic answers in Amnesiac's hand. There's the Warpath, which can be played next turn. Obviously, Snip Snap can be played this turn. There's a means of inhabiting the board, trying to get the Sorcerer's Apprentice down that way.
Snip Snap a bit more annoying to deal with if something like a Magic Trick and Frostbolt were to come out. This means that there's still 2 1-1s left over. Both the Snip Snap and the Clockwork Goblin do contest the Apprentice, although the Snip Snap leaves a little extra behind. So now Muzzy has to decide, okay, is this a Cyclone turn? Probably not for 1 card. Is this a turn where we try to draw more cards? Perhaps. Is this a turn where we Snip Snap and trade? Probably not. I don't feel like that's that powerful of a turn. Could go Snip Snap Images, ignore Amnesiac Snip Snap, and then go face.
Yeah. I guess. Snip Snap would play around the Warpath a little bit. I'm just staring at Arcane Intellect thinking, you know, I want to take advantage of this Sorcerer's Apprentice. Maybe too much.
I mean, it's not even taking advantage of it. Even if this was 3 mana, I think Arcane Intellect is good. When Muzzy's running stuff like Astromancer and Twilight Drake in the secondary list, having hand size is very relevant. But the thing is, Muzzy now has a play where he can fight for tempo. And the past game he was winning because he was ahead on tempo. We didn't see Giants last game until the very end. Being able to just push the early damage, A, it keeps down the armor count, so stuff like Shield Slam isn't really possible, and and B, it also just protects yourself because you already have stuff on board instead of drawing to find stuff later. You can still draw after this board is cleared, for example. You're not going to be playing just a Cyclone for nothing. If this board gets cleared, Muzzy could still Arcane Intellect next turn. The only thing that he forgoes is being able to play a Twilight Drake if that were to be drawn next turn. In general, I've really liked seeing players play more aggressively with their Apprentice when they have the hands for it.
Yeah. I agree. And this, you know, it's worked out. It's worked out fine. Again, like the only question for Amnesiac is do I have to Warpath this? And like you said, Warpath isn't necessarily that good against Mage generally.
It can be difficult to use, yeah.
Yeah. So when you do find an opportunity to use it like this, I guess you do it. And he's gonna go face. Not gonna start trading Snip Snaps around. That seems like it could be very awkward.
Muzzy has the option to ping either the front half or the back half of the Snip Snap, but I think strong is the way to go.
There it is. A little bit late though. This
could also choose to just Evocation Cyclone, trade the Snip Snap, and play that out. have a little bit more stuff on board, and I do like that. It's not a very spell-heavy hand, so just getting 2 spells out of 1 Cyclone to develop a 2/2 is fine.
Okay, maybe he gets an invocation off of this. And
Or a Shooting Star, that'd be nice too.
oh, yeah.
Barrier can help sustain his life total a little bit, although the Bomb Warrior Amnesiac's running is a bit slower now, of course, with the BGHs and Super Colliders. It's not that as aggressive of a game plan. But the Barrier still can help. Fireball's nice too, a little bit of a surprise damage. Okay.
Goblin with bombs gonna start to come out here. Head with a hero power. I mean, Amnesiac sort of has board at the moment. It's not clear how long that's going to last, though.
Interesting. This is interesting. It's going to be hard to get Ziliac's magnetic value later unless you, unless Muzzy finds some sort of mech off of Astromancer. So he could decide just to play on curve, play the Ziliacs here, kill the Clockwork Goblin, and go from there. Or he could opt to just play Sandbinder, get a guaranteed Mountain Giant, but he can't play Giant Conjurer's Calling next turn. So he could wait on the Sandbinder, play it next turn, weave in a ping, and then do it the turn after.
Does magnetizing the Ziliacs even make this that much better here?
It's very annoying to deal with.
Yeah, I guess, because the Death Rattle.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to look at other options. Like, I was trying to look at what if he trades first and then Ziliacs is on top of one of the 1/1s, or
Nicer.
just does it separately. Because this is still an awkward board to deal with.
Actually, is this better against Ziliacs? It's a little bit better against Ziliacs, I suppose. Okay. Dr. Boom Mad Genius on the sidelines for now. Actually, Muzzy is still, I believe, not running weapon removal, so Amnesiac could, even if he wants to, just equip the Super Collider now, trade in the Ziliacs into the Snip Snap, and then just clean up the board. Say go. Having the Super Collider equipped before turns like Astromancer and Giant Conjurer's Calling can come out is very beneficial, because it means you can have the swing turn when they play that, and then also play your own, minion development. Could even actually just go. Actually, no. I was thinking maybe Spellbreaker and Super Collider, but I'm thinking I'm getting way too ahead of myself.
He's gonna dig. It looks like it's gonna be the Clockwork Goblin turn, and there it is.
It's fine as well. One benefit of holding the Super Collider is that your opponent doesn't know you have it,
Right.
so they could play into it. It's hard not to play into it when you're playing as the mage. You either play into BGA or you're playing into Super Collider.
That's the problem for Muzzy. But then Super Collider has its issues as well. I mean, I mentioned why it's so great earlier. Toast to Giant's great, but like as soon as it's 2 Grave Horrors, suddenly Super Collider's a little bit worse.
You still need some extra, even 7/8, and even a Grave Horror and a Mountain Giant. The Super Collider doesn't completely clear because you can't swing at the Giant. So only in 1 of 4 cases you can actually just get a clean kill.
Yep.
So it helps to have some extra stuff left on board.
But with Dr. Boom, Mad Genius's hero powers, with Kaboom, with Microbots, with Zap, with most of them, the Warriors should find a way to finish the job anyway. So yeah, that's what makes the card so efficient in this matchup.
With Big Game Hunter and Super Collider and Dr. Boom Mad Genius in hand, I don't expect Amnesiac to play this Devastator until later on. The Dynamatic's fine here. Dr. Boom Mad Genius could be fine as well. I think loading up the Dynamatic on the board to help deal with an Astromancer or Giant Conjurer's Calling is the best way to go here.
Okay.
Because it means that the Super Collider plus Dynamatic almost always clears those cards that I mentioned. What Muzzy can do is play the Giant. I mean, it doesn't really matter where he plays it, but if the taunt is next to a 1/1, it's possible the Super Collider won't hit the Grave Horror into the Mountain Giant.
Well, it's going to be an 8-drop.
Yeah.
By the looks of things for
My
Muzzy. And
calculations
8 drops
are
typically quite powerful.
There's
Seven-
good 8s.
7/7. That's fine. It's good enough, acceptable. Does die to Big Game Hunter, but then if that's Big Game Hunter gone, great. Don't need to worry about it anymore.
Kind of a tough turn. This is. So Amnesiac can fully clear the 5/5 and the 7/7 to stop any Conjurer's Calling shenanigans. What's annoying is that he would have to swing the Super Collider into the Cauldron Elemental to guarantee the Astromancer and Cauldron Elemental hitting each other. But that still leaves the Cauldron Elemental at 1 health, which would mean that the Dynamatic still has to bump into that. So it feels kind of yucky putting that much into it.
It is, but Amnesiac's game plan isn't necessarily dominate the board, win that way, is it? Like,
Yep.
he wants to survive, get the bombs in the deck, and
What now?
sort of win by attrition more than anything. He's got the removal that he needs in order to shut down Muzzy over and over again, ideally.
Yep.
So, yeah, he does go with that swing.
I do like this. Just denying Conjur's Calling. Amnesiac knows that there's at least another elemental in hand. So the Mountain Giant we see in Muzzy's hand was drawn off a Sandbinder. But from Amnesiac's perspective, it could either be what is likely Mountain Giant, but it could also be the other Cyclone.
The problem with denying Conjurer's Calling is that it's still there. And it's still going to be there until...
At some point, it will hit something. Yes.
Exactly, right. So, obviously, if now's not the ideal time for Amnesiac, for Conjurer's Calling to go off, then yeah, deny it. But that's something that's worth keeping in mind. Like, as long as you play around something, as soon as you get to the point where you can't play around it, you are going to get punished eventually by it.
I do think with the way Amnesiac's tertiary, whatever his mage side deck is built, he's fine if the game goes on longer because he does have the 2 brawls. He still has the BGH in hand, another one in deck. He still has 1 Omega Assembly. He's cut 1 in this list, but the Omega Assembly can discover some extra Devastators or stuff like that.
Right.
I think going later is easier with this Warrior side deck. It still might not be what you want to do. Perhaps Amnesiac wants to take a much more aggressive line, but the way Muzzy played it, it kind of prevented Amnesiac from taking any aggressive line because the early minions that Amnesiac developed were dealt with.
Shield Slam picked up there by Amnesiac. With only 3 armor. Obviously, playing Dr. Boom and then playing the Shield Slam immediately after is an option. And maybe now is the time to do that. Because if Amnesiac...
I don't need it. This is a good break to do that, yeah.
Yeah, if Amnesiac can never guarantee that he's going to have armor again. I mean, obviously, whenever he gets the tank up hero power, great. But
I want to hit the button.
now you definitely want to hit the button.
Well, I still don't know if you do it. The thing is, Twilight Strike isn't that threatening. If Muzzy Conjur's Calling that, it's like, oh, sure, okay, there's like 2 4-drops on the board, maybe 3 4-drops if he does it twice. So Amnesiac has to decide if he values the value or if he wants to just continue removing stuff on board. And I do like pushing the button this turn.
Bombs. It's not about value. It's about bombs.
Bombs, bombs, bombs.
As demonstrated by how quickly Amnesiac snap-picked that Clockwork Goblin at the moment it was drawn.
We were not talking about the Goblin Bomb. We're talking about the Clockwork Goblin Bomb.
Yep.
I
that-
wonder.
What?
There was a Goblin Bomb
Ah.
offered in the Discover.
Ah.
The 1 mana 0/2.
I didn't even notice that. So how
But
great
yeah, you see the Clockwork Goblin, you're
bombs,
like,
bombs,
done.
bombs.
Okay, bit of a tougher turn from Muzzy. He chose not to play something like Mountain Giant, Conjur's Calling. Obviously, there's a Super Collider in the way, so he might try to be able
What to do?
kind of
What to
get
do.
Amnesiac to use all those charges before the Giant comes down, or perhaps he wants to develop stuff that doesn't quite line up with the Super Collider that still is difficult to deal with. And the Cairn pickup is a great way to do that because Super Collider doesn't really deal with this. Brawl doesn't really deal with this, and does Amnesiac even want to brawl this smaller board? And once Amnesiac does commit something like that, then Muzzy can go Astromancer Conj or Giant Conj.
Muzzy's certainly just making it difficult for Amnesiac to ever have a clear board, as Conjur's Calling immediately on Cairn. The problem with that is that it's made Brawl a lot stronger. Getting rid of the Death Rattle has made
I'm not
Brawl
sure
stronger.
if Conjur's Calling on the Cairn was the way to go here.
He's shaking his head about it as well.
The benefit of Cairn is that it's difficult to deal with
Right, exactly.
from the Warrior's perspective,
The
right?
classic Death Rattle issue.
It
right?
survives, well, it doesn't survive, but it leaves something behind from Brawl. It's sort of a Brawl protection. So I'm surprised to see him Conjur's Calling. We see him shaking his head. Maybe
Yeah.
he...
I feel like that was a mistake, and I feel like he realized it the moments after he played it.
Yeah.
Oh,
1-1 left over.
That's rough
We might
for
even see Amnesiac just play a Dynamatic, but I think the Clockwork Goblin lets you get the hero power in as well. Dynamatic can still be used against something like a Giant or an Astromancer to help clear that up with the Dynamatic, the Super Collider.
well, although he lost the board then, that is one of the brawls gone, and Muzzy with the opportunity to go pretty hard onto the board here. Mountain Giant plus Astromancer. Not that he necessarily wants to play both of them, but you know, maybe one this turn, one next turn, a lot of big stuff.
I think since those are last two threats, I think Muzzy wants to play just one and then Conjurer's Calling it. Because if he plays both threats and they are both dealt with, these Conjurer's Callings are just kind of stuck around for a while.
Let's swap the... Oh, actually, well, that's a good question. What do you think, Language Hacker? Are we getting rid of the 7 mana 5/5 or the 9 mana 5/8? What do we think we can get more value by trading in?
I mean, what should we Conjurer's Calling?
What should we Conjurer's Calling? Is the
It's
normal way of
difficult.
asking that
There's a lot of outcomes on the 7 mana. Well, there's more than the 9 mana slot anyways. I think the 9 mana slot is better.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
You don't want to skip Dictate.
Take those.
There's some dragons and Jiraxis-like minions where Super Collider is difficult to clear with, and I think I like that a bit better. 7 mana minions are kind of similar stat lines, so it's a bit easier to Super Collide them into each other. There's still cases on 9 mana where you get like Crush, King Crush, and it's like, okay, well, you know, Crush kills a Crush, but it gives you an option to have something like this where you have a big minion and kind of, I mean, they're both big minions, but Jiraxis is more defensive in terms of a stat line, whereas the Burly Shovel Fist is more aggressive.
Okay, then.
All right, second big game hunter drawn from Amnesiac.
I mean, this turn's kind of awkward because he could play Big Game Hunter to get rid of the 9/6. He could put the weapon into it. He's also got Mega Destroy. There's so many different ways of dealing with the board. It all just seems...
I think I like this. So this allows Amnesia to kill off the Jiraxis as well, denying Conjurer's Calling. So playing the Omega Devastator with this means that the Burly Shovel Fist will swing into the...
Yeah, that's nice.
And Amnesiac opting to save 4 health here at the cost of a 1/1, which I do like. There's still some armor left over, which means you could get some Shield Slam value. Whereas if you go down to 0, I mean, it gives Amnesiac a few more options.
Only one bomb left in the deck now.
Yep.
So, although I just gasped, am I drawing one? So
Well,
17
it's the
health.
threat of there being more.
There could be more later. One of those goblins came from Discover.
Yep.
So,
Muzzy recognizing that just Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling is not going to do a whole lot because Amnesiac does have that Super Glider equip, so he's opting to go for a Mana Cyclone play instead, generating a bunch more value like this, and it also means that if Amnesiac swings the Super Collider to deal with this board, then he can feel more comfortable playing out the Giant.
very mixed feelings about this pack of random mage spells.
It's
What do you think of Book of Spectres in this deck? I mean, you'd have to like look through the list and
Nuh-uh.
do some maths, but yeah.
At this point, even at this point, nuh-uh. There's too many spells left.
Pyroblast, on the other hand.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
That will do it. And Muzzy launching the Fireball face before the Cyclone as well. I like that. That's probably going upstairs anyways, so getting it in there for the extra spell on the Cyclone is nice. Muzzy is also running Archmage Antonidas. Not that many cheap spells left, but I mean, Muzzy's 1 or 2 fireballs away with a Pyro just to end the game, even without minion pressure. I mean, there has been minion pressure, but without sustained minions on the board.
Right.
Pushing damage. Okay. Amnesiac testing for Entity. Testing for Counterspell and Spellbender.
Yep.
Then the Omega Assembly to see what's in the box.
Not much more that it could be now.
Snip Snap. Goodness. That's good.
And the Boom Reaver obviously is just a lot of tempo.
Amnesiac could also trade the Dynamatic here to test for Splitting Image. Obviously that means that Dynamatic dies, but on the off chance that Splitting Image, would you rather give Muzzy an extra Apprentice that you can kill off this turn, or would you rather give Muzzy an 8/8 later that might be more difficult to deal with?
Antonidas.
Aha.
All right, given how much damage Muzzy has with that Pyroblast, I mean, one Fireball, okay, in theory, Pyroblast, Fireball, Ping,
Pyroblast, Fireball, Ping.
plus another Ping.
I think Muzzy wants to save that Antonidas until the second Ray of Frost has been...
Uh-huh.
I think Muzzy has used 2 Ray of Frosts, if I'm not mistaken.
The other thing with Amnesiac being so low on health is that Super Collider feels much worse.
That's true.
It's going to have to be double BGH to deal with this.
Yeah,
Or
you do need health to work with for the Super Lighter to be used effectively. One Astromancer, two Astromancers?
I think so.
Yeah, both Astromancers have come down. One Giant already. A Twilight Drake. There's not that much left to Conjurer's Calling. Muzzy does have Kagura left in the deck, and that could make a bigger board. But it's not there now, and Muzzy does need to kind of just... Oh, I like this. This sets up Pyroblast lethal. It's also sneaky because he thought about it for a long time.
Right, right. So if the Super Collider does go into the Grave Horror, Pyroblast will just do the trick. Sneaky Muzzy.
Yeah.
The kind of strategy that the average Hearthstone player definitely doesn't think about.
Amnesiac has to decide whether he wants to play around that. The thing is he can. Amnesiac can just play BGH, BGH.
Okay, then.
Which I think is quite possibly the play this turn. Boom Reaver doesn't likely let you kill these off without the Super Collider. Blastmaster Boom isn't that great because there's only one bomb in the deck and the bombs are unlikely to clear. I think Double Big Game Hunter gives Amnesiac the push he needs to try and close out the game.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
I've got the beast in my
The Muzzy can't really do much except follow up with Antonidas plus Conjurer's Call on the Antonidas. Gets a Fireball, gets some 7 drops, and the problem is those 4/2 bodies are actually kind of annoying right now.
Up, especially with the bomb in the deck.
There's armor!
Oh, there's the armor. That's rough. The magic trick can help. The problem is if Muzzy does go for like a huge fireball turn, a fireball generating turn, he's not dealing with the board. There's not a lot of 2-mana spells you can find that deal with this. A Frostbolt could help.
Ray of Frost would do well. It would do the same as Frostbolt,
That would be nice.
except it would generate an extra fireball. And I guess rather than deal with one BGH, you freeze both. It's kind of hard to say.
It might have to be Antonidas.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough because there's not much else you can.
Book of Spectres. All right.
Okay.
Yes. No.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 mana off being able to play the Giant and the Conjurer's Call and the
Muzzy
Catguard.
could hold on for 1 turn and then set up the huge turn. Actually, this makes a lot more sense. So it's quite likely that Muzzy would find one of Khadgar Giant, which lets him get to the other part of that, which I think he identifies as the most likely play to let him win this game by making that huge... The Ray of Frost is there too. I think he might even just pick up the counterspell to be able to deal with... okay, he does not.
What were you going to say then? To do with what?
If he can set up the counterspell this turn, it means that he can make a much bigger... I mean, it's not a much bigger board, but it plays around the second Brawl. Like, Amnesiac would need another spell and Brawl to be able to deal with the Giant thing next turn. But I think this just stops a lot more bleed damage, which is probably a bit safer. I don't think Muzzy can just play around everything. So I do like, you know, saving 8 health here.
Again, worth noting, there's 1 bomb in Muzzy's deck right now, so Blastmaster Boom is good old traditional Dr. Boom with 2 Boom Bots, if played right now. Except the Boom Bots have Rush, so almost.
I'm interested to know why Muzzy didn't play the Mirror Entity. So next turn, if Muzzy played the Mirror Entity, Giant would go up to 6 mana, and when the next turn he draws a card, it would go down again to 5 mana, which means that Muzzy could still go 5 mana Giant, 2 mana Khadgar, 3 mana Conjurer's Calling. So I think the Entity would have helped a little bit. It probably would not have denied the Blastmaster, because Amnesiac still could have gone Acolyte, then Blastmaster. But I think the Entity could have at least helped a little bit to clean up some of the board.
All right, Muzzy wants all of the Grave Horrors in the world.
Okay.
Gets 2 of them. Ah. All right. Is this enough, though? Super Collider plus the Microbots well, sometimes deal with both Grave Horrors, sometimes...
7, 8, 15, 16, 19. It's exact lethal.
Ah, well, guaranteed.
So Amnesiac can Spellbreaker one of the Grave Horrors, hit... he should hit the Grave... yeah, he can Spellbreaker 1, hit the Grave Horror in the middle.
This would be a good
which means that at worst case, he has to trade in a Boom Bot into the remaining 7/7 if it hits the other Grave Horror. If that's the case, he has 7 from the Blastmaster, 8 from the BGHs, that's 15, plus 4 from the Dynomatic and the other bomb.
Yep.
He can do this first. Sure. He doesn't even have to use a Spellbreaker, but now he can use a Spellbreaker to push 1 extra damage with the Boom Bot. In any case, this is... kill off the Khadgar for good measure, why not? It's just going to double check and count. Don't want to miss this, because if you do, there's 16 damage facing you.
That is definitely going to do the trip. The snip snaps are insult to injury. Amnesiac going to take the second game of the series, and we've really seen this game how much of a difference the anti-mage techs make
definitely.
In this matchup. And it's pretty clear why. Again, Brawls, Super Colliders, and Big Game Hunters are so powerful against Mage. Muzzy needs to now, moving forward, find a way to get that edge back against Amnesiac.
I mean, yeah, it's quite literally what you're saying. The cards that people are taking in for Mage and the Warrior decks are so incredibly impactful. I think it's one of the most impactful sideboards that a deck can actually have. Big Game Hunter just completely swinging the board back against the Giant if it's played out. Super Collider, especially against the deck without weapon removal, for example, it just does so much. Like, we saw once Amnesiac equipped that Super Collider, he was kind of dictating the pace of the game, even though Muzzy was developing threats. The threat of that Super Collider made Muzzy play differently to try and make it more awkward, and sometimes that gives the Warrior too much time to be able to just deal with all your threats, have all the answers.
It's like I was saying earlier, when we're looking at the decks that have been swapped into, the question is which player gets more of an edge from switching decks. And obviously, for Muzzy, it's nice to have these extra tools against Warrior, but for Amnesiac, like, we're talking these tools that looks like they've been curated specifically to destroy Conjurer's Calling Cyclone Mage. So, yeah, Muzzy's going to have to see if he can somehow get to play around it all a little bit better this game.
Yeah, just to shake it off and take this game. Again, Muzzy having Sorcerer's Apprentice on 2. See if he decides to play it this time.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Plays the Magic Trick here. I like this. For exactly this case, if Arcane Intellect is picked up and Amnesiac happens to go something crazy like Armor Up, Coin Shield Slam, this means that the Arcane Intellect you get from the Magic Trick can still be played next turn to set up for your Twilight Trick on turn 4. It's worse if Muzzy draws something like Mana Cyclone and decides to go on for a Cyclone turn, but with the hand he has, I think playing other Magic Trick there is good. Yeah, Amnesiac has to consider how to deal with this. I don't think coining anything out is really good enough because the only way to deal with this in his hand so far is to coin exactly.
Oh, the Manish Commander, actually. Either of the two.
But both of them cost 4 mana, so we have to wait one turn. But I do like thinking about it. This lets him plan out the next few turns, and it also means that Muzzy has less information about what he can do.
Oh, he's going to go ahead and actually play this, which means Ray of Frost will allow the Sorcerer's Apprentice to stay alive for another turn.
I'm trying to think if I like this. This means Amnesiac can go coin 3 into 3 into 4. Is that better than saving it and then going to coin Caliber? This does set up to help deal with the Twilight Trick because you have 2 things on board already, and then you can Militia Commander. I'm not sure it's close. The thing is, I haven't even played enough with SimSnap to kind of go through all the motions of how and when you should play this for tempo versus value later.
Now, Gallon was talking to us a lot about Bomb Warrior yesterday, and he was saying Wrench Caliber into Blastmaster Boom on 7 is how you win games.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dr. Boom was powerful at the 7 mana back in Goblins vs. Gnomes. It's still powerful now. Now you just tack on 2 more bombs. Bots. Yeah.
In the meantime, though, Muzzy does have Stargazer Luna along with a second Ray of Frost, so he can afford to play Luna, play the Ray of Frost, which it still has the Twin Spell effect. Can even freeze the Acolyte if he really wants to work on keeping the Sorcerer's Apprentice alive. Actually, fantastic.
I like this. Drawing a lot of cards. Muzzy immediately recognizing, yeah, I'm playing that. Let's find out what's in the box.
Tools of creation.
Well, that one's not getting played this turn. So now Muzzy can consider what he wants to do.
Freezing the Acolyte, tempting. However, again, going into turn 4, I mean, we've pointed out both of the ways of clearing the Sorcerer's Apprentice are available in the hand. I guess the plus side of Muzzy freezing this Acolyte is that Militia Commander can only deal with one of the minions, right? I'm just going to trade into it.
So this plays around Wrench Caliber, but not around Militia Commander.
Yeah.
And you, again, it's difficult to play around everything. Your opponent's going to have something at some point. But I do like this, not using the other copies of Ray of Frost to be able to play the Mountain Giants, if Muzzy so chooses.
It's a nod to Sorcerer's Apprentice's job being done as well,
Yeah,
right? Like
Sorcerer's
that
Apprentice
was
got some good mana.
that was a pretty insane turn. And Muzzy has Giants available to next turn, and then Conjure's Calling available very shortly after that. So I guess, yeah, he just didn't need the Sorcerer's Apprentice anymore.
Playing the Giant on this turn does mean that it walks right into I've got the beast in my sights. It's not there, but it's something Muzzy has to consider. Because from Muzzy's perspective, if he does play that, and the big game hunter comes down, suddenly he's in a lot of trouble because there's a lot of damage on board. He's already used 2 freezes. There's no Novas in this deck. Damage can add up. Muzzy also now considering if he wants to use another Ray of Frost to play around something like Ziliax. Chooses not to. Ziliax on the Snip Snap plus the Militia Commander is only 7 damage, which does not kill a Twilight Drake, and decides that it's better to hold on to the Ray of Frost.
It is awkward getting rid of this Twilight Drake, hence why it's in the deck in the first place.
Yep.
Or been subbed into the deck in the first place because of how much Warriors struggle.
The shield block does mean that Amnesiac can deal with this Twilight Drake.
Yep. Shield block, shield slam.
Kind of expensive in terms of how many resources he'd have to shove into it.
Yep.
But
then shield block isn't all that valuable, right, in the long run in this matchup?
I think Amnesiac could even just Ziliax and go face. I actually quite like this. He could bump as well. Okay, I don't hate this either. I think 5 face damage is a lot, but this means that it's a way to deal with a Twilight Drake without expending something like a shield slam.
Yep. And Muzzy can't deal with the Snip Snap just by trading the Twilight Drake as well. He will have to ping it or play a spell, maybe a Shooting Star, to get rid of it.
And this kind of shows us that players, when they switch to this sort of mage side list in their warrior specialist decks, understand that the game doesn't have to be as aggressive as it was in game 1, where you're on your primary and you don't have all these tools. You can take the game a bit slower, especially if it's turn 6, there's no giants on board, you're kind of just dealing with threats. The longer the game goes on, you'll be able to use those Super Colliders, Big Game Hunters, the Devastator. You have more time, and I think Amnesiac's identifying that by just trading off the Snip Snap instead of pushing 5 face damage. There's no bombs in deck. Blastmaster could come down on turn 7, but this leaves him the option to just continue fighting for board instead of just going full face.
Absolutely. Down the last game we saw Muzzy play Conjurer's Calling on the Cairn, and it didn't work out so well.
Yeah, not quite.
I mean, this game, Cairn isn't looking like it's going to do all that much anyway. There's literally a 5/5 already on the board.
True. 4/5s don't deal well with 5/5s. Mage does have a hero power to ping with, and Muzzy does have a Shooting Star in hand, which can help as well, but...
Yep. But again, with the shield block and actually 2 shield slams available, Amnesiac could literally go shield block, shield slams, do some trade.
It's not bad. It helps deal with the Cairn.
Alternatively.
Yeah. When in doubt. Okay. I was thinking he'd also go face, but it looks like Amnesiac is valuing controlling the board, which I do like. Like I said earlier, being able to control until you have those tools that you have teched in is very powerful, especially when you can deal with Cairn like this. It's still unfortunate you have to punch so many resources into it, but if you can kill a Cairn, it's pretty clean. Amnesiac still at 32 health. This also means you can get some value out of the Ziliax heal by swinging at the Cairn first.
Evocation does not do much. It reduces the cost of a Mountain Giant by 1.
It would let Muzzy go Evocation, Giant, Conj, and then squeeze in the Shooting Star to deal with the Snip Snap.
Okay.
Which means either the Twilight Drake can go upstairs or kill a 1/1.
Go upstairs.
Yeah.
Haven't heard that one before.
Really?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, cool. Going upstairs, use that more.
Using your feet
Yeah.
to go upstairs. Your front foot and your back foot.
Perfect. I'm carefully crafting these.
I feel like I'm learning a lot from you.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. It's actually interesting. If Muzzy chooses to Shooting Star the Snip Snap, he leaves a 1/1 on board, which leaves something bad for Brawl, but he could trade the Twilight Drake in and then Shooting Star, which is really interesting. It also plays around Super Collider, because if there's a 1/1 left over and Amnesiac does find a Super Collider on the left Grave Horror bumps the right one, and the remaining 1/1 can kill it off. So this is a very interesting decision. I know it doesn't look that interesting because it's like, oh, of course, you just killed the 5/1. But this does make Brawl worse, and it does make Super Collider worse, at the cost of pushing a bit of extra face damage. So it was an interesting
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my mind was going straight to the trade and then shooting star because it just shooting star to deal with 2 minions or shooting star to deal with 1. It's a very simple way of looking at it. But obviously, as you were saying, the super collider, brawl, etc. There are reasons to think about it, but ultimately Muzzy does need to, well, make the number that currently says 28 say 0 at some point, and so dealing the damage definitely has its merits.
This is a nice turn. Being able to fully use Amnesiac's mana, he is going for shield block armor up, which lets him. It's quite beautiful. The 2 microbots left over also let him clean up the Grave Horrors without the use of Big Game Hunter or Super Collider, which can come in handy later when Amnesiac doesn't have the armor at his disposal. Okay, Muzzy drawing, seeing what's coming up there.
So this could be a Mountain Giant turn. Given how many resources Amnesiac had to use to deal with the Grave Horrors last turn, with the double shield slam, etc., it's not a huge stretch to think that Mountain Giant would survive.
The interesting thing about using the shield slam is that it actually doesn't give that much information to Muzzy. Some people might think, okay, well, he used shield slams, he had to shield block and armor up to be able to use the shield slam.
Yep.
He probably doesn't have a BGH because BGH is just kill a thing. But when you have both shield slams, it's actually a really good way to use the shield block because you're activating 2 things at once.
Yep.
And obviously the mana cost is a factor as well because BGH costs 5 mana, which would still leave a Grave Horror left over. So Muzzy might not even think that it's safe to play this Mountain Giant. And I do like him developing something else instead of the Giant. Also, 15 cards have been gone through Amnesiac's decks. It's quite possible he does have a Big Game Hunter at this point. Not always the case, but this does make another awkward board for Amnesiac to try and clear without just having an answer like Big Game Hunter. But of course, why have answers when you have questions yourself?
Atlanta Boom once again with well, now with 4 Boombots. They're going to be second one just shuffled in there at the last second. No rush on the Boombots though.
I think it's fine. Okay.
Now Muzzy has the board, sort of, and he just has to somehow keep hold of it through all of these exploding bots.
Yeah, those Ray of Frost that he held on to from the start of the game can finally be used if he doesn't want to deal with the Blastmaster Boom.
What to do?
Could also go something like Khadgar, Conch Calling on the Ziliax, but
Okay.
I think he might want to save that for later. He could even just kill off this Boom, ping a Boombot, or you could ignore the Boom, trade off the Boombots, and then freeze the Blastmaster Boom. There's quite a few options here. Could also be a Cyclone turn. Looks like it is a Cyclone turn. I actually kind of like this. There's not that many things you want to freeze against Amnesiac's deck, especially when Muzzy has 30 health to work with.
Yep.
You don't need to buy yourself that much time. So this means that just using the Ray of Frost for the extra mana Cyclone is quite powerful. What's in the box?
Okay, 2 secrets.
Acceptable.
They can be
There's
pretty
some stuff
interesting.
that can work out here.
Polymorph, obviously handy in its own
Yeah.
way.
I do like pushing face, not giving Amnesiac that much wiggle room to work with. And I mean, Muzzy could try trading off the bombs, but I mean, Amnesiac's going to be doing that anyway, so why do it for him?
We'll be seeing what the bombs do now. Obviously, Amnesiac could trade the first one in. It might kill off the Ziliax, and then it does give Amnesiac potentially some freedom, but it's not guaranteed.
I do like that Muzzy's making these awkward boards that Amnesiac probably doesn't want to brawl, but still, like, it's kind of tempting him, hey, you want to brawl this? Hey, you want to brawl this? And it's quite possibly why he's holding on to this Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling with a Khadgar for something like turn 10 after he sees a brawl. But he's continuously making these awkward board states where a brawl could be an answer to it, but other than that, it's difficult for 1 or 2 cards to just effectively deal with it. I mean, fortunately, these bombs for Amnesiac are cleaning up some stuff, but depending on how they hit, it might not clean up enough.
I guess the question is, how much is enough? How important is it for Amnesiac that the Twilight Drake is dealt with? Deals with everything but the Twilight Drake, and there's no... Well, there is a way to deal with it, Warpath, but there's no clean way of dealing with it. So that 5 damage is going face next turn. Amnesiac going down to 14.
Amnesiac could have Warpath here twice to clear the Twilight Drake, leaving his Blastmaster Boom at 3 health, but he opts to hold on to the Warpath, kind of recognizing that Muzzy's making these awkward boards, and Warpath can help clear some of those awkward boards later. Also can help deal with the an Astromancer, for example, later on. I mean, both shield stems are gone. Having the armor isn't that relevant as long as Amnesiac has enough health to use. I think he's fine, and I don't mind him using holding on the Warpath here instead of just jamming it to kill off the other things.
At the end of the day, Amnesiac still has like all of the removal in the world. As we're going into turn 10, where Omega Devastator becomes active, on Brawl, 2 Big Game Hunter, and it looks like Muzzy is going to go in with the powerful Khadgar turn. This is just going to get ruled immediately.
Okay. Twilight Drake's probably cleaning off the Blastmaster boom. Could go face. Face plays around Brawl a little bit, but it also leaves...
I feel like you go face. Because, for that exact reason, it plays around Brawl. Brawl is the only thing really that beats this board, at least beats it really hard. Beats it badly. So
it also means that if Twilight Drake wins the Brawl, Amnesiac can't go Brawl BGH, for example.
Yeah, true.
Even with the Town Crier, I think Amnesiac's probably going to go Brawl and then hope to BGH what's left behind. He could throw in the Town Crier into the Brawl, but that means if one of the 7/8s or 8/8s are left alive...
He's going to do it.
Yeah, I like this.
What is going to survive? Muzzy needs it to be the Twilight Drake, really. First thing destroyed. Blastmaster Boom survives. That is the best case scenario for Amnesiac.
Oh, we didn't see him throw the basketball this time. He's thinking about it, but he's probably going to swing face with this. Interestingly, you can't play Devastator. Not that that is the
Well, you could play Town Crier Devastator, I guess.
True. I like just holding off, though. You've just, from Amnesiac's point, he's dealt with quite an investment of resources from Muzzy's side. The Kadra's gone, the second half of a Conjurer's Calling's gone, and both Giants are gone now. So that's a lot of stuff to have dealt with. There's not that much gas left in Muzzy's deck. And weaving in the hero power means that you start playing around the one thing Muzzy has left, which is Archmage Antonidas. Obviously, Astromancers can help too, but if you have the answers for the Astromancer, then all that's left is the
That's right.
Antonidas.
Amnesiac can deal with this board with...
Devastator.
Well, it's going to be Devastator now because the pain you can give. I guess Militia Commander plus the Warpath.
It's a bit awkward. I think I'd like to see Amnesiac just play the Devastator and start pressuring Muzzy.
Agreed.
Not give him enough time to find that the Astromancers, the what do you call it, the Antonidas, stuff like that.
He can also develop the Super Collider now, actually.
Could, yeah. Again, there's no weapon removal.
Yeah. So just putting it there, it's sort of clamping down on Muzzy, just saying, yep, this is
actually
something else you can't do.
I kind of like playing Commander here and arming up.
Okay.
Again, one of the ways you lose at this point from Amnesiac's perspective is that it literally just Antonidas into some spells. Also, I like getting some armor up.
Or the 3 Pyroblasts in the hand, which are Muzzy's 3 leftmost cards, right? The 3 mana cycle
Well,
cards,
that would just be unlucky.
But you're right, Antonidas does seem to be like the final stand Muzzy's got. I don't believe Muzzy's played the Astromancers yet. No, he hasn't. So he needs to somehow have a big hand at some point in order to get some value from that.
Spellbreaker has not been played yet, I believe, from Amnesiac. So Muzzy's deciding if he wants to throw the Snip Snap onto the Snip Snap or play it next to the Snip Snap.
There are ever any sentences in life that you just never thought you'd say?
Muzzy could also invest in Mirror Image here to try and protect the Snip Snaps against something like a Warpath, although it doesn't help too much. Okay.
It's going to be one big Snip Snap.
It's good. Doesn't die to Big Game Hunter. I do like this. It's a bit too easy to clear off with Warpath if you put it on the side.
Oh dear, Omega Assembly. That's the alternate card text of this card reads, add an Omega Devastator to your hand.
Save the best for last. Big Game Hunter, not really a consideration here. Amnesiac's going through the motions here. Warpath do stuff, not quite. Super Collider, still not quite, so he's trying to map out what he can get off Omega Assembly and if it's worth playing something else with it.
5 Warpaths would allow Amnesiac to deal with the Snip Snap alongside the attack from the Omega Devastator.
6 1/1s are still a lot.
But yes, 6 1/1s are still a lot. And what deals with 1/1s? Warpath. Well, what would he no longer have in his hand? Warpath.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It is a consideration. I just don't think it's... You're spending 10 mana and your entire board to reduce 6 power to 6 power.
When you put it like that, Yes.
Yeah, it sounds silly like that.
It doesn't seem like the best play.
I mean, Amnesiac still has to be able to punch through the first half and the second half of the Snip Snap, but I do think Warpath is not
wow, that mirror image is
what
making
he wants
life
to do this turn.
awkward.
Bulldoze is real nice.
Yeah,
Well,
but it goes into a mirror image. It doesn't go into snips.
oh, not yet. It doesn't have rush.
Oh, of course, no. I'm so used to Dr. Boom Mad Genius being
Just
played by-
assume that they always have rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
By the time Omega Assembly's being played, yeah, I just kind of assume they've all got rush.
This is interesting. So the Muzzy, the Frostbolt that Muzzy got off of Mana Cyclone could be used to stop this Bulldozer for a bit. And now the Banana Buffoon.
The banana buffet.
I don't know why I started whispering. I was just excited.
It's
The
a good whisper. I like
Yeah?
it.
Okay.
We should cast the rest of the broadcast like that.
I think we'd receive some complaints.
From who?
I don't know. Twitch chat.
Yeah, Banana Buffoon, as you said, it makes Antonidas look a lot better. Both Sorcerers... No, only one Sorcerer's Apprentice has been played, so there is a possibility at some point of Muzzy
Yep.
going Sork into Antonidas, into Bananas, into Frostbolt, into whatever else.
I quite like developing Vaporize this turn.
Okay.
The likely play from Amnesiac is to train the Town Cry into the Mirror Image, which means that the Vaporize sets up, if Amnesiac goes for an aggressive game plan, he can get punished by the Vaporize. And I'm not too keen on using this Frostbolt to stop a Bulldozer. It's... maybe it's fine. I don't quite...
Okay.
I'm not in love with this, but I can see why Muzzy's doing it. We're getting to the point in the game where Conjurer's Calling will not get value because there's too much on Amnesiac's board to push, so Muzzy can't wait for an Astromancer. So just putting some extra stuff on the board now, making it a bit awkward, which means that next turn Muzzy can go Antonidas, Frostbolt, Banana, and try to set up a double Fireball.
But now we've got to reevaluate that Warpath. Because suddenly it's not looking so bad. 3 Warpaths.
Oh no, Warpath's great now. Even just 2 will do it. The Devastator can hit the 1/2, the Town Crier can hit the Bog Shaper, the Bulldozer hits the 6/9, and then 2 Warpaths clear up the board. You're left with a 9/5 Bulldozer, you're left with a 4/2 Devastator.
Yep.
And board. Yeah.
What now?
Now, Amnesiac does need to consider, okay, I'm sure he's come to the conclusion, okay, Warpath can clear this. However, is that what I want to do this turn? Is there a way that Muzzy just blows me out with exactly Antonidas, Banana, some other thing?
Given that Amnesiac is down to 13 health, like
It's a real threat.
it's certainly not safe. Turning Rover
This is
can
what he
help.
was thinking of. Throwing in the Rover means that there's some extra life to work with if Antonidas comes down.
2 Warpaths is another 4 armor. He can armor up. Play Shield Block if he wants to.
True. Thing to note, Amnesiac's only natural Devastator on the deck has been used. Both Shield Slams have been used. If Muzzy Frostbolts the Bulldozer, Amnesiac would have to punch everything into the...
Okay. It's the Antonidas.
It's just... it doesn't look like it's enough.
Sorcerer's Apprentice picked up the... So it's still only 2 Fireballs, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just 1 Banana and Frostbolt. Sorcerer's Apprentice doesn't actually do all that much, except adds itself to the board for free, I guess.
What to do? What to do?
Ah.
This looks yucky.
Antonidas.
Antonidas, Frostbolt with the Banana, generates 2 Fireballs. The problem with that is it's not enough.
Yeah, it's a 6/8.
So something else needs to happen. So Muzzy needs to find one of his...
What to do?
Is it still an
What
Archmage?
to
No, it's an
do?
Astromancer. That's what it's called. He needs to find an Astromancer, get something decent off of the Battle Cry, or maybe Conj Calling whatever comes off the Battle Cry and get some more beneficial things from it. Because what he has in his hand right now is not enough to close out the game, and he's staring at a fairly big board. So something has to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite in the position where he wants to Conjurer's Calling the Unpowered Mauler to try and get a Doomsayer.
Oh,
This is
wow.
Antonidas' turn.
I mean, we're getting there, though, aren't we? Like, he's not dead this turn.
It's not far off. I mean, if Amnesiac deals with this effectively,
Next turn, maybe, will be the turn to try and do that.
and even if Muzzy does do that, it's still hard to win because he needs board again to be able to deal the last bit of damage.
Oh, and there is Dr. Boom, the Mad Genius, ready to put Amnesiac's health back up to 26 in total if played now.
I think to be able to deal with the Antonidas effectively, Amnesiac would rather either play Militia Commander or Shield Block to activate the Mauler.
Well, he can play Shield Block and Doctor Boom.
True.
And it's just enough to deal with the Anti-Knights. Doesn't deal with the Source Apprentice, and actually, with the 4 attack, with the 2 Fireballs in the hand and the other spells, maybe...
I think Amnesiac might want to deal with both.
Yeah.
And this also means if he does go Shield Block Militia, he even squeezes in another Hero Power, which I don't think is awful. I don't think he has to play Dr. Boom Mad Genius this turn. He knows how many threats are left in Muzzy's deck. He has the Super Collider. As long as he doesn't run out of health, I think he'll be fine. Which is why I like him starting with Shield Block.
Spellbreaker.
Perfect. Spell break that Bulldozer. 6, 7, 16. That's 1 damage off of lethal.
Wow.
If he had drawn Spellbreaker this turn, instead of Dr. Boom Mad Genius, that would have been lethal. Spellbreaker plus the Super Collider for 1
Absolutely, yeah, wow.
In any case, that's not what's going to happen.
No.
Spellbreaker's going to come out, which means that Amnesiac can save the Militia Commander for a rainy day, trades off the Unpowered Mauler and the Eternium Rover, pushes face, and puts Muzzy in quite a tough spot.
Elemental Evocation would have been great last turn with Antonidas, but isn't going to do anything whatsoever now. And there's not even a 2-drop on the board that he can play Conjurer's Calling on to try and make a Doomsayer. So, is this lights out for the Mage? Defeated by Amnesiac's tertiary deck. Fireball both.
I don't want to call a game. I think it'd be very surprising if Muzzy came back now.
What else does he have in the deck? 6 cards remaining.
There's 2 Astromancers.
Well, he doesn't have enough cards in his hand, really, for those to be impactful.
Maybe he finds something impactful. I'm trying to think of some cheap minion that could come off of the Astromancer. Something like 4 mana, perhaps a Soldier of Fortune.
Again?
I don't know.
Card of the day.
He could also still receive an Antonidas from Conjurer's Calling the Astromancer.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's
2. He could get 2. He could get 2 of them actually, and then use the Elemental Evocation to get 2 more Fireballs.
That's true. Something I hadn't considered when I said the Astromancers aren't enough. I hadn't considered the 7 drops.
They're still quite likely not enough, but it is possible.
And
Okay.
Cyclone. Okay.
This is
I'm just calling.
I like
Evocation,
this.
Cyclone.
Muzzy's not saving the Conj Calling. He's throwing everything in. He needs stuff
Whoa!
off of this. Perfect. He needs some stuff off of this.
What? Okay, there's no Brawl in the hand.
Spirit of the Bat.
Oh, this Blast Wave might be a card at some point.
Okay.
He really wanted Power
Brawl.
of Creation or something.
Power of Creation would have been probably exactly what Muzzy needed to come back into this game. He's still in an okay spot, but with a Brawl pickup, it's going to be very difficult for Muzzy to stick anything to push enough damage to let him actually finish off Amnesiac.
Yep, not nice. The secret is Mirror Entity, so it's not counterspell. It's not going to stop the Brawl. Amnesiac could even play a minion first and then play Brawl just to get rid of the secret as well, and to test for the secret at the same time.
That's what's going to happen.
Light the fuses!
All right, there we go. Secret goes off. He knows he's safe to cast the Brawl out.
Might not even have to. Depends how safe he thinks he is and what he wants to play around from these random cards. He could just trade off the Dynamatic into the Pit Lord and then Zap Cannon it.
Yes, he has a lot of health, so 35 health does seem like...
I do think we'll likely see a Brawl here because Astromancer's not going to develop enough, especially with the second Conjurer's Calling gone now. All Muzzy has left are the 2 Astromancers in terms of gas, I believe.
Wow. Super Collider instead.
This is fine as well.
Deal with the Pit Lord the hard way.
The thing is, Amnesiac has lots of health to work with. If he takes the risk with Brawl and the Pit Lord lives, that could be a way he loses. And this way, it's just difficult to find a way that Muzzy comes back. Oh yeah, there's a bomb in there too. All right, 4 mana. The problem is the Conjurer's Calling is gone, so there's fewer.
So yeah. What 4 mana cards
My calculations
can
are flawless.
could save Muzzy here? Twilight
that
Drake.
one.
Not that
Not
one.
that one.
As good as Twilight Drake is in this matchup with only 1 health, it's not going to do the trick.
Okay, Blast Wave into Power of Creation stuff. I'm still not convinced it'll be enough. I mean, Muzzy would probably just much rather play another Astromancer from his deck.
You win this.
That's it. Muzzy's going to throw in the towel. Don't blame him. I don't think there's a way you could win it. Get a 1 game from there.
Amnesiac takes it away with the Warrior versus the Cyclone Mage. Not the result that we'd expect from the matchup, but it just goes to show the power of the anti-mage tech that we've been seeing in many players' lineups.
Yep.
And yeah, that is what it does. It just deals with the mage stuff over and over and over again.
We didn't even see Big Game Hunters come down that game. They were
It was just in the hand.
they were hanging around. No beasts here. He had I mean, Amnesiac was able to deal with everything very, very effectively. The initial development of Khadgar Conjurer's Calling with the Giant was dealt with swiftly by the Brawl, and of course, Blastmaster Boom surviving that did help quite a bit. But Amnesiac did have answers in case that didn't go his way. He did have Big Game Hunters left over, which we saw were just sitting in the hand the whole time.
Well, let's see what Amnesiac has to say about his win. Congratulations, Amnesiac, for taking that one down. First thing I want to ask you is, some of the players have been saying to us that they didn't have as much time to prepare this week because they were at Vegas. Do you feel like you had an advantage this week because of Vegas?
I guess I did, in the sense that I didn't really show my hand as to what I liked in the meta, but at the same time, I think things changed quite a bit as a result of the tournament occurring. So like, whatever I didn't show didn't have that much value. So not really. I mean, I think I conformed to the meta more than broke it this week. So I think my not attending the tournament didn't have like a big effect.
No, that's fair.
In your secondary tertiary list, we see obviously one of those prepared for Mage and one of them tech for Mech decks. Did you expect your opponents to perhaps bring something like Mech Hunter or Mech Paladin, even though that hasn't been as popular?
Well, I certainly thought it was a possibility, and put EMP on primitives in my deck on purpose. But like, it was more just that you don't give up that much. I don't think that there's a deck that I'd rather be teching for. So I'm thinking like, I'm probably not going to play this ever, but the edge that I get from making it one of my decks is pretty good. And like, I can play my primary deck in most of the matchups, and then obviously for Mage, I have the sideboarded Colliders and Big Game Hunters and stuff. But it's mostly just you don't give up that much, and then you don't gain that much percent.
That makes sense.
So with the anti-mage lineup, when you with the anti-mage tertiary deck, when you see that you're up against Cyclone Mage, do you feel favored, or do you still think it's a tough matchup for you?
I don't know. The games were like tense. I mean, game one I kind of expected to lose. I think when you're not playing your tech cards, that matchup's like really bad. When you don't have the Super Colliders and the BGHs, it just feels pretty bad. I think you have to kill them, and I didn't even come close to doing that. But I mean, I felt pretty in control of the other games. Like, there was a close moment. I had, like, exactly enough damage to kill both of his Grave Shamblers because I didn't draw Super Collider, but I had, like, double Shield Slam. But I feel like if you can kind of get through the beginning sort of efficiently and be at, like, a reasonable life total, your deck kind of just deals with everything over time. And, like, there was one turn where I was in a pretty awkward spot, but he just went in with Khadgars, and it, like, played really well into what I had.
Yep.
Like, not to say it wasn't right, but just, like, the way things aligned were really good for me. And then winning the Brawl was nice. That was weird. I think I maybe should have played a Big Game Hunter just to play it at some point. I wasn't really thinking about that, but, like, they kind of rotted in my hand. But, yeah, I think the matchup's definitely fine once you're in your sideboard deck.
Yeah, well, it definitely worked out for you, Amnesiac. Congratulations, and we'll see you again later this week.
All right, later, guys.
Yeah, I mean, the sideboard helps significantly, but I was just wondering because, like, obviously, again, we see it as such a bad matchup. How much does that sideboard change it? Like, does he feel favored now? And seems, I said it was still tense.
I think, yeah, there's always games where the Mage can have something like a very early Elemental Evocation, Giant, Coin Conjurer's Calling, and you're in that one game where you don't have the Super Collider, and you're like, uh-oh,
right,
I can die in 2 turns. So there are cases where the Mage can run away with the game, but it does feel, like you said, a lot safer and when you switch the secondary deck.
Well, we only have one series left coming up today here in America's Grandmasters. It's going to be Just Saiyan versus Olay, and it's going to be Rogue versus Mech Hunter. You don't want to miss that one. It'll be up right after this.